have a confession to make. I am a planner. I have been planning out my days since I was 15 years old. I would make these little schedules in my paper notebooks. And while I wouldn't like to call myself a control freak, for a Dutch girl like me, the plan is the plan. 2 summers ago, as I was ticking off the little to-do boxes on my list, everything I knew came crashing down. One day, I was packing my bags, getting ready for a trip to Brazil. The next, I woke up to a paralyzed face. The control freak had lost control. Without a warning, life had landed me into something that I like to call life's storms. It's those times where life just pulls the rug from underneath you and gives you everything that was not in the plan. What would you do if everything you knew changed overnight? Who would you be? For a planner like me, I did what I do best. I created structure in the mess. As I was going through my journey, I started organizing it into a storyline, becoming the narrator of my own story. Because you don't just go through the ugly storm in order to come back as your old me. You go to it and you're building a new you. But in order to get to that part, we need to go back to the beginning. And this story starts with that deceptive piece of the calm before the storm. For me, in this chapter, I felt that in most ways, I was thriving. I had just moved to Portugal a few years ago, and I felt so proud of the life that my husband and I had built here in the South. A life full of golden beaches, friendly people, and fulfilling work projects. Yet, somewhere far away in the skies, thunder had started rumbling. It just hadn't come to that big and explosive thunderstorm yet. I woke up like any other day. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was looking at my blurry reflection. I couldn't help but laugh. I looked really tired that morning. The laughing quickly stopped when I realized that only half of my face was smiling back at me. The other side felt numb. I'm having a stroke, I thought, as I rushed to the hospital. There, the doctor told me that it was a facial paralysis caused by a virus or stress. He told me casually that it could take weeks, months, or years to recover. A recovery process followed that involved daily facial exercises in order to get those muscles to respond again and start working again. The woman who had once set herself big and shiny goals was now busy practicing duck faces in the mirror. And it wasn't in the cute 21-year-old way. I found myself desperately trying to fast forward through this chapter. And every time I felt like I was going to make it out of that ugly storm, I was thrown right back in by yet another traumatic life event. They just kept on piling up. If you ever find yourself in the middle of a never-ending storm, please know that you will make it out. This is your only goal here. It is to make it through the storm. And in order to do that, you need to be your own best friend. Think about it. If an actual storm was raging outside, you wouldn't be out on the roof making repairs. No. You would stay inside, laying low, waiting for that storm to pass. This chapter is your time to wait. But you do not have to wait alone. As an international, building a new network in a new country, I found myself sometimes wondering, who would really be there if times got rough? It was those people who saw me smiling through my tears while I was at my lowest and still stood by me that are now part of my essential support system. And I'm in theirs. We think that people want to see shininess and perfection, but especially in the age of AI, perfection is boring. We all know it, yet we still strive for it. What if we dared to be more open and honest about the struggles and the challenges that we face so that we could help each other? In the eye of the storm, we need all the help that we can get. Because the storm, it gets messy. It gets messy with questions that you're looping over and over, such as, why me? Why did this have to happen? And what if I had done something differently? You are bargaining with reality. In Brazilian Portuguese, there is a name for this. Coitadolândia. Literally translated, it means the land of why me, or the land of poor me. We can visit Coitadolândia. We should allow ourselves to grieve and to feel those tough emotions. But we cannot stay there. In order to move forward, we need to take back our power. We need to ask a different question. Instead of looping, why me? We can ask, this happened. Now, what can I do to rewrite this story? Now that we're asking a different question, it is time to start rebuilding. Or maybe I should say, it's time to start building. Because that version of you that walked into the storm, they no longer exist. A new you is beginning to emerge. Luckily, this chapter is more palatable because we now have the luxury of hope and maybe even some positivity. Positivity in my chapter came in the words of a wise man, a deep thinker who looked at the reality of hitting rock bottom and said, the good news is that when you're at this point, any way up is a win. Do you want to know who this was? It was my husband. Amongst that deep and dark storm, he reminded me that we could always start building again and that good things would be coming. Affirmations are more than just positive thinking. We are using the power of repetition in order to carve those new neural grooves into our brains. It's neuroplasticity. With every phrase that we repeat, we are building that new pathway, that new groove, a new reality for ourselves. Good things are coming. Do you remember that Brazil trip that I had mentioned? 1.5 years later than planned, I was packing for that same trip. Packing the same suitcase, considering those same bikinis, as a different person. We cannot underestimate the power and importance of visiting those places that make our hearts sing. These are our happy places. This picture is from a visit on that trip to Rio de Janeiro. We were visiting a samba school there. And as I was listening to the thundering rhythm of the drum set, and I was seeing those beautiful passistas, they were covered in sequins and feathers, dance like their lives depended on it, I realized something. This was resilience. This was resilience covered in feathers. I learned that samba, it's more than a dance. It is a survival strategy created by the Afro-Brazilian community. Many of the songs are actually heartbreaking. They talk about loss and struggle, but the rhythm, it's uplifting. We see this connection between pain and beauty in the Portuguese fado as well. The most beautiful art comes from dark times. How can we find our own uplifting rhythm? The answer lies in doing those things that we love. This is the catalyst for our metamorphosis. This gives us the energy, the creativity, and the optimism that we need in order to grow and change. Writer of the book, Feel Good Productivity, Ali Abdaal, talks about this positive effect of doing those things that we love, the things that make us feel good. He even wonders that the effect of those things could be so big that it could even undo some of the negative emotions, such as stress. Wondering, if stress is the problem, then maybe feeling good is the solution. Now that we are feeling more optimistic and more energized, we can take a look back at some of the journey that we've made. This is the chapter that I find myself in currently. I'm not done yet. I'm still working on my recovery, but I'm also starting to see new things rise from the ashes. New habits, new passion projects, new friends, and a whole new outlook on life. This is what the rising is about. Brene Brown, in her book, Rising Strong, also talks about this idea of rising. She thinks we need to own those tough chapters in life. And we can do that using storytelling. She thinks that as human beings, we are natural storytellers. Therefore, we can use storytelling in order to fold our tough experiences into who we are. Brown says that we are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. This is why I'm here on this stage today. I was determined to create beauty from an experience that in itself wasn't very beautiful. This is me rewriting my own story. Because the one upside of going through an ugly storm is that now you have a story to tell. And it may not have been the one that you have planned for, but it is your story. So I have one final challenge for you. And I told you I'm a planner, so I have a to-do list for you. Make art from your pain. Cover your resilience in feathers. And tell those real and raw stories. That way, though we cannot decide what story we get, we can always write our own daring endings. And maybe that daring ending, it's actually not the end. Maybe it's a whole new daring beginning to that new story in front of you.